Hey, Coach PBJ here. That is Paula Birch Jackson and not Peanut Butter and Jelly. I am so excited to be relaunching my podcast, This Game Called Life, How to Master the Game and Win. You know, I had to be true to myself, so I had to pause my podcast. And I'm starting over. And for the last few months, I have been on a journey of self discovery. You see, there were some parts of myself that I had to be honest about that I didn't like how she was showing up. And I began to pray and just ask God, what is really going on with me? Why do I start stuff and stop stuff? Why am I so inconsistent? What's going on with this podcast? I know that God gave this to me and I know that I'm supposed to be doing it. But God, exactly what am I supposed to be doing? And what I discovered is before I can get in there and really be consistent, I had to deal with this person who was looking back at me in the mirror. I had to deal with myself. And this is so ironic because God just does something in mysterious ways because um, right before my father passed away in 2013, Dad said to me, he says, Paula, no matter what you do, always seek for truth. I didn't know that Dad was just talking about other truth. I didn't know he was talking about my own truth. I didn't know he was talking about the truth of myself, looking at myself in the mirror and being true to who I was. Because what I had learned how to do was master my mask. I began to masker hiding how I was really feeling. And God began to bring this whole thing to fruition while I was looking at a video on TikTok. This video was a video of a little girl, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how old she was. She was little. She wasn't 5. She was maybe 2 or 3 years old. And she was seeing her shadow for the first time. And this little girl was frantically running from her shadow. She was so afraid of that shadow. And I thought it was cute. So I don't know how we see the videos that we think are funny and we just kind of keep replaying it. I kept replaying this video. And about the third or fourth time, I said to myself, I said, oh my God, that's so cute. She's so afraid of her shadow. She's afraid of herself. And God said to me, I heard as clearly as you can hear me on this video, on this podcast, I heard God says, just like you. I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean, just like me? And that's when God began to literally pull back the onions in my life. And I began to see all the areas in my life that had become shadows, those hidden parts of me that I had hidden because I didn't want people to see. Those parts of me that I had been told that it was wrong. You can't show up like that. You shouldn't be like that. All of these rules that the world was giving me, but the world itself could not even live up to it. You know what I mean? So I began to do some research and I found this guy, Carl Jung. Carl Jung started talking about shadows years and years ago. And there's actually a plethora of work out there called shadow works, or people of helping dealing with the dark side of us. And a lot of times, especially in the Christian communities, we hear the word shadows, we hear anything dealing with darkness. Oh, that's not of God. But since they dealt with shadows in the Bible, you know, Moses' shadow stopped him from reaching the promised land, right? Paul's shadow of lust got him in some big trouble until Nathan confronted him. Peter had some shadows. He denied Jesus 3 times. Paul, he said himself, he says, the things I desire do, I don't do. The things I want to do, I don't do. The things I don't want to do, I do. The things I don't want to do, I do. Y'all know the scripture. If you don't, go look it up. But the point is, it's a play on words. Some call it sin, some call it shadows, but I can't even say that shadows is necessarily sin because I discovered that my shadow, I got a lot of them, but my major shadow was anger. I had an anger problem. And what I'm going to talk about in this video is how we chase, face, and embrace our shadows. So right after I listened to that video and I got that revelation from God that I was just like that little girl, afraid of myself, afraid of my shadow, afraid of my dark side. After I got that revelation, I began to ask God, help me, oh God, find out how I got to be this way. Help me to deal with all my shadow. Help me to shine the light on it. Take me, oh God, from shadow to shine. I wanted to be set free. I wanted to be made whole. And little did I know, God began to, like I say, pull back the onions, pull the layers of all the things. So with the shadow of anger, I was actually on the phone right after this little revelation, having a phone call with a friend of mine. And she said something that triggered me. And I mean, I went from 0 to 100. I was screaming to the top of my lung like I had literally lost my mind. And at the whole time, had some emotional intelligence going on there because I saw how I was reacting, but it's like I couldn't pull it back in. I couldn't stop it. But I saw that I said to her finally, "Oh my God, I'm sorry," because clearly this is something else. I realized in that moment that the energy that I was projecting did not match the conversation at all. So I realized that it was a trigger. I apologized to the young lady and I said I had to get off the phone and I had to go chase that shadow. I had to go back and find out what the heck was that about? What did she just stir up? Now, something she said on the phone took me back to a very, very unhappy place at my then place of employment. And it was a situation that I had to deal with a supervisor. And she said a phrase that supervisor had said. And in that moment, I realized that I again suppressed that situation. I did not deal with that situation. And unfortunately, it came back on this young lady. And wow, did it ever come back? So, but I had to chase it even further. Where did you get that anger from? And believe it or not, I had a dream that night. We were in a department store. I was about 3 or 4 years old and I was ready to go. I was tired and I got mad at my mama because I didn't want to keep shopping. And I had a temper tantrum in the store. And, my mama was not one of the mamas who played with that stuff. And she says, "Where you do it at is where I'm going to get you at." And she got me right there in the store. And I just remember in that dream, Mom said, "You don't have a reason to be mad. You want to be mad? I'm going to give you something to be mad about." And I got a spanking. And from that moment, I didn't like spankings. So when I got mad, I learned at a very young age, don't show that anger, suppress it. So I began to suppress my anger. And I remember I went through a whole lot of stuff in my childhood because I didn't believe in showing my anger because I didn't like the consequences, what I had then defined the consequences of anger as a beating. So I began to suppress it. And so now here I am, 30, 40, 50 years later, all of that suppression began to come up. And I started having these little episodes of being triggered and going from 0 to 100. And I finally concluded, girl, you ain't got no space to be angry about. You ain't got no more room to suppress nothing. You too old for that. And I began to react. And so I began to pray and ask God, I can't be showing up like this. Help me learn how to master this shadow. And what God showed me, to face it, I chased it back to my childhood. I had to face it. I had to go back to that little girl and say, yeah, the Bible even says, "Be ye angry, but sin not." So it's okay. You do have a reason to be angry. You're a human being and you're not going to like every situation. And sometimes it's going to anger you, but you have to decide how to deal with it. You have to learn how to master how you feel and don't let it master you. And so I was like, okay, God, you have to show me how to deal with this little anger. And like God would do, he gave me a remedy for it. I was watching my grandbaby who was 2 at the time. I saw her. I was at the home when she had a temper tantrum. And I saw her dad get up and I saw him walk over to her. And I started having a flashback of when I had my temper tantrum and my mom got up. And man, I had to go into some prayer. I had to pray hard. I was like, oh my God, I went through this whole little thing in my head. I said, God, he finna go beat her like my mama beat me. And then, Lord, I'm gonna have to intervene. And I'm gonna have to go save my grandma baby. I'm gonna have to protect her. Oh my God. And then I'm gonna fall out. He gonna fall out with me. He gonna put me out his house. And then he gonna never let me see my grandbaby. And then I'm gonna have to take him to grandparent court. All that stuff going in my head in a matter of seconds. But he surprised me. He didn't handle it the way my mom handled it. He walked over to his daughter. He kneeled down in front of her and he said to her, "Annalie, breathe. You can have it, but you can't have it now." He says, "It's okay that you're angry, but just breathe." And my little 2-year-old grandbaby, she took 3 deep breaths. She calmed her little self down and then she got up. And I was like, oh my God. Right there in that moment, not only did he teach my grandbaby how to deal with her anger, he taught me how to deal with mine. So that's what this podcast is going to be about. So again, our shadows are those dark parts of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that we suppress, the parts of ourselves that we've been told is not good. You're not supposed to act like that. The world has a way of giving us a whole lot of definitions of what we could, should or should not be doing. And the problem that I have is that we all are operating our lives through the lenses of shadows because of all the things that we've been told that we should not be doing. And the challenge is the people that are telling us that we shouldn't do it are the ones that we learn to do it from, right? So the hypocrisy of it all. But the shadow work, it shines the light on all of that. And so Carl Jung, like I said, he was the first person to bring shadows, to label it shadows. It's all through the Bible. And I'll share another story with you. I was walking this January of this year, 2025. I went to Costa Rica with some amazing women, and we were doing a hiking camp. And it was probably about 40, 50 of us hiking up this mountain. And when I get to walking, I get into my zone. I block out everything and I just go into this place. And I'm just going, I'm walking. And I did not realize I had walked away from everybody. And I was in these woods by myself. And we're in Costa Rica and we were seeing animals I've never seen before. And all of a sudden, when I looked up and I didn't see anybody in front of me, I didn't see anybody behind me, fear crept in. And I started saying, Lord, please don't let me see nothing slipping and slime because I don't want to see no snakes or anything like this because I'm going to really lose it. Where am I going to go? And in that moment, I heard the scripture, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I'm like, my God, a peace came over me. Yea, though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And I got stuck right there, walking through the valley of the shadow of death, walking through the valley of the shadow of death. And that valley, those low places in our lives, the valleys, the shadows, the dark sides of our lives, the parts of us that we've been told that we shouldn't show up that way, of death, the shadow of death, the shadow of shame, the shadow of hurt, the shadow of insecurity, the shadow of fear, the shadow of trauma. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shame, I will fear no evil. Yea, though I walk through the valley of hurt. Yea, though I walk through the valley of insecurity. Yea, though I walk through the valley of fear. Yea, though I walk through the valley of trauma. God is with me. And so you're never alone. And so in that moment, God began to uncover all the things in my lives that I now call as shadows. And he began again to give me this strategy on how to deal with those shadows. And for those of you who have a problem with me calling our shortcomings shadows, get over it. This is my podcast. And this is what God has given me. And this is how he has given me to present it. So again, we're going to walk through the valleys of these shadows. I'm going to be interviewing different people, helping them to help you understand what shadows are all about. You'll get to, I ask them questions. You'll get to hear how other people, because one of the things I want to have on this podcast this season is a lot of pastors, because I just received my doctorate degree in my dissertation. My dissertation, I wrote about shadows. And I wrote about how a lot of our leaders, our pastors, our bishops, and the leaders, that we forget sometimes that they're human beings too. And we rely on them. For example, when the world falls apart, 911, when it happened, I remember our church was packed. People ran to the storehouse, and we expect for the pastors to have the answers. We expect for the pastor to know, and we forget that same trauma impacted them the same way it impacted us. They didn't understand it, didn't see it coming either, but we put these expectations on them. That's one thing. But the shadow becomes when the pastors, the leaders feel like they have to walk in those roles, and they have to put on their robes and put on their collars and suppress that they're afraid to. Suppress that they don't understand either. COVID, when the world shut down, they had to still show up. They had to suppress that they were afraid. They had suppressed that they didn't know the answers either. So shadows. So Jesus would say, when we get into these situations, that it's the blind leading the blind. In a lot of areas, we rely too much on human beings, and we don't give them the space to feel what we feel, and we judge them and we create shadows, and then hurt people begin to hurt people. So throughout these podcasts, I'm going to be talking more and more about the shadows, more and more about how we can uncover them. And I got some things in my notes I just want to run back to real quick to talk about. Sorry. Yeah. As we begin to search, discover our shadows, Psalms 139, 23, and 24 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thought. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting." Psalms 139, 20, 139, 23, and 24. You see, God is not asking us to hide. He's asking us to invite him in, for him to uncover. Lord, search me and know my thoughts. Search me, know my heart. God, search me and tell me every hidden thing inside of me, every wound, everything that I have suppressed. Show it to me, Lord. Show me the area where I'm shameful. Show me the areas in my life where I am hurting. Show me the areas in my life where there's insecurity, where there's fear, where there's trauma. And I can say most of my shadows all came from incidents from my past. Even with exercising, I spent the better part of my life running from exercising because I grew up, my legs, I had not knee, bow leg, and I was pigeon toed. So, and I was extremely skinny. So when I ran, my leg looked funny. They didn't look like the average person when I ran. And so people would call me names. They would talk about I look funny. They would call me clumsy, all of these different things. And I remember sometimes they was like, "Girl, you better not run because you'll break something." And just all of this stuff that I internalized as a child. In 2012, I started working out with a trainer. And she had us doing all kinds of stuff. She had me playing basketball, y'all. She called it a robo ball, and it was so much fun. And I would hear them say, "Y'all better, here come Paula, she a beast." I was like, "Paula who?" Because I never saw myself in that light. All I saw that I was clumsy. All I saw that I was afflicted. So when when they gave me a compliment, immediately that shadow rose up and like, and I would pull back. I would shrink because now I would notice that somebody's paying attention to me, and I don't want them to pay attention to me because if they pay attention to me, they're gonna see that I'm not nude. They're gonna see that I'm bow-legged and pigeon-toed, and they're gonna laugh at me. Then one day we were having a relay. She had us running. We had to race. We had to throw the ball, this big ball up. We were in the gym. We had to throw it to the top of the gym, and then we had to run up there and get it. And we had to do all of these little exercises in between. And my trainer yelled out to the top of her lung. She says, "Y'all better hurry up. Here come Paula. Y'all know she competitive. Paula, good form." That's what she said. But what I heard was, "You clumsy. You afflicted." And I began to shrink back. Then she said it again. And I got this thing with rocking music. I began to hear the rocking music play in my head. Dun, 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 dun. And I found the courage to press past that shadow. I found the courage to run even faster. And needless to say, your girl won that relay race. Yes, she did. But the point I'm making in this is that those things, those hidden parts of us, those things that we suppress as a child, they come back at the most inconvenient time. One more story, and I'm going to let you guys go. I just wanted to get back on here to let you know that we're going to be kicking off this season, and we're going to be talking about shadows. I'm going to be interviewing people who have overcome some shadows, some people who have faced, chased, and embraced their shadow, how they impact our life, how when we shine the light on them and shine, that we become a better version of ourselves. But this is my last shadow story I'm going to share about y'all that I experienced. I call it my chicken nugget story. Chicken nugget story. So what happened was, I went to McDonald's. I ain't a fan of chicken nuggets, but for whatever reason, I had a taste for some chicken nuggets that day. So I went to the store, I got the chicken nuggets, ate one of them, and don't want this. Put it in the refrigerator. I said when my late husband Robert come home, he can have the chicken nuggets. I was gonna let him have them. When Robert came home, I just so happened to be upstairs, so I did not give him the chicken nuggets. But when I came downstairs, he was eating the chicken nuggets. And I saw him eating these chicken nuggets that I was gonna give him anyway. And I got mad. I was angry that you're eating these chicken nuggets that I was going to give you anyway. And when I started yelling at him about it, he looked up at me. He says, girl, I'll just buy you some more. What he say that for? Because that took me from 0 to 100. I told you I got this anger thing. And I got so mad at this man for eating the chicken nuggets that I was going to give him anyway that I flipped the table over. I splashed water in his face. I'm acting like a pretty fool over some chicken nuggets that I did not even want, that I had said to myself I was going to give him anyway. But again, I had that out of body experience and I could not stop myself from acting like that. And when I flipped the table over, he jumped up, he rose up at me, and I ran. And I went up into my room, and I'm like, oh my God, what was that? The Holy Spirit started dealing with me. The Holy Spirit told me, you got to go back downstairs. You got to go apologize for acting like that. But I'm going to tell you what that is, but you got to go and apologize at first. And I'm like, but God, I just flipped over a table. I just threw water in this man's face. But I had to be obedient. So I went back downstairs. And like God did with my husband, he did the same thing with me. While God was dealing with me upstairs, he was dealing with my husband downstairs. And when I came downstairs, he was not angry at all. And I told him what happened, and we began to figure that thing out. He and I sat down, and we figured out what that was. You see, I was one of 5 kids, and I could never eat all my food growing up. So I would always call myself saving it and putting it in the refrigerator. But when I go back to get it, somebody else, one of them other 3, the other had always eaten my stuff. I was mad. And then when I would go tell my mom, I said, we should have ate it. So because I felt like my mom didn't protect me, she didn't stand up for me, she didn't tell them not to eat my stuff, I got in trouble for them eating my stuff. Again, that was something that I was suppressed. I didn't like it, didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't feel validated for feeling the way I felt, so I suppressed it. And when I come home, so it wasn't about him eating the chicken nuggets. It was about him not asking. It's about him again violating my stuff because it was mine. You didn't have a right. And now, blessed God rest his soul, he has went on to heaven now. And I was sharing that story with my current husband. And it's so funny now because when I have something in my house, he's like, oh, Paula, do you want this? He makes sure that he asks, right? But I think I've gotten past that. I don't really get upset when he eat my stuff without asking him more because now I'm okay if I don't want it and he eat it. It's fine. So I don't allow that shadow to control me anymore. So I'm excited about being back in this game. I'm being excited about helping you guys chase, face, and embrace your shadows. We're going to get through this thing called life together. We're going to learn how to master this game called life. And we're going to do it by shining the lights on our shadows, those dark parts of us that we've been trained to believe that is bad and we have to suppress. Guess what? Romans 8:28 says, and we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God. So even our shadows, our dark sides of us are working for our good. We just have to learn how to work it and not allow it to work you. I am Coach PBJ. That is Paula Birch Jackson and not peanut butter and jelly. I will see you guys in my next episode. Tune in. I'm going to be consistent this time. You guys hold me accountable and keep me in this game. Look forward to talking to you. Make it a great day. Coach PBJ signing off. Bye-bye.